What if I told you the world wasn't meant to be the way it is today? That the land you walk on was never supposed to exist, until one god took matters into his own hands, and another tried to steal creation itself. This is the shocking Yoruba Creation Myth, a tale of divine betrayal, a drunken mistake, and a battle that shaped the fate of humanity. So, sit back, because this is African Myths Unveiled. Before we dive deeper into the story, I have a quick question for you. I know that many of you are tuning in from different parts of the world, all united by a love for African mythology. So, I'd love to reconnect. Drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. I'll be in the comment section engaging with you. And if you're enjoying the content, a like and subscription would mean the world to me. All right, let's get back to the story. Long before the world as we know it existed, there was only an endless, swirling void, a vast abyss of nothingness. The heavens and the earth were yet to be formed, and all was silent, except for the whispers of the divine. Above this emptiness, in the celestial realm known as Orun, dwelled the supreme god, Olodumare, the all-knowing, all-powerful creator of everything. He was the keeper of Ace, the sacred force that gives life and power to all things. One day, as Olodumare gazed upon the formless expanse below, he decided that it was time to create the earth, a land where life would thrive. But he would not do it alone. He called upon Obatala, the divine sculptor and the god of creation, and gave him a sacred mission. Obatala, Olodumare's voice echoed through the heavens. The time has come to shape the world. You will descend into the abyss and mold the land where rivers shall flow, trees shall rise, and creatures shall roam. But remember, the task requires wisdom, patience, and the power of Ace. Obatala bowed in reverence and accepted the sacred duty. To aid him in his quest, Olodumare provided him with a golden chain, long enough to reach the void, a small pouch filled with divine sand, and a powerful white hen. As Obatala prepared to descend, he felt a presence behind him. It was Oduduwa, his younger but ambitious brother, watching with curious eyes. Obatala paid him little attention. He was focused on the task at hand. With determination in his heart, he climbed down the golden chain, descending slowly from the heavens. Below him lay the vast, endless waters of the void. With each step, the world felt emptier, the air thinner, and the darkness more consuming. But he clutched the pouch tightly. This was his destiny. As he reached the bottom of the chain, suspended over the oceanic abyss, Obatala opened the pouch and sprinkled the divine sand into the waters. Then, he released the white hen. What happened next was nothing short of miraculous. The hen flapped its wings and began scratching at the divine sand, scattering it far and wide. Where the grains landed, dry land began to emerge. Small mounds of earth grew into hills and valleys, shaping the first lands of the world. The waters receded, forming rivers and lakes, and soon, the first island was born. Obatala marveled at his creation. He named this land Ife, the sacred place of beginnings. But this was only the first step. The world was far from complete, and unknown to him, his brother Oduduwa had his own plans that would change everything. Obatala stood upon the newly formed land, admiring his work. The dry earth stretched beneath him, surrounded by endless waters, and the first hills and valleys had taken shape. But something was missing: life. The world felt still, devoid of movement or sound. And so, Obatala resolved to shape beings who would walk this land, creatures that would breathe, speak, and thrive under the gaze of the gods. But before he could begin, he grew thirsty. The descent from Orun had been long, and the heat of the new world was unlike the cool serenity of the heavens. He set aside his tools and sought refreshment. It was then that he stumbled upon a palm tree, rich with sap, and from it he made wine. Not yet accustomed to its potency, he drank too much, and his mind grew clouded. Unknown to him, Oduduwa, his younger brother, had been watching from above. Ambitious and eager to claim power, Oduduwa saw an opportunity. With Obatala lost in his drunken stupor, Oduduwa seized the golden chain and descended into the world his brother had begun to shape. When he landed upon the land of Ife, he saw that it was still unfinished, and the thought struck him. Why should Obatala be the sole creator of the world? I too am worthy of shaping its destiny. With this, Oduduwa took the remaining sand from the divine pouch and scattered it further, expanding the land beyond its initial borders. He raised new hills and deepened the rivers, molding the earth with his own hands. And as he did, he declared himself the true ruler of this creation. When Obatala awoke, the world had changed. The land was no longer his alone. It had grown beyond what he had imagined, and at the heart of it stood his brother, standing tall with an air of triumph. Oduduwa. Obatala's voice rang across the hills. You dare to meddle in my creation? Oduduwa turned, a smirk playing on his lips. You abandoned your duty, brother. I merely continued the work that needed to be done. Fury burned in Obatala's heart, but he knew there was no undoing what had been done. Ife had expanded, and now, two creators stood where there had once been one. But Olodumare, who saw all, was not pleased. The supreme god sent his messenger, Orunmila, the god of wisdom, to settle the matter. This rivalry must end, Orunmila declared. Oduduwa has shaped the land, but it was Obatala who first set foot upon it. From this day forward, Oduduwa shall be the king of this world, the ruler of the land. But Obatala shall have a greater duty. He shall shape the beings who will walk it. And so, the fate of the world was set. Oduduwa, the first ruler, laid the foundations of kingdoms, while Obatala, the sculptor, turned his attention to an even greater task, the creation of mankind. Obatala, though still bitter over Oduduwa's interference, accepted his new duty. If he could not rule the land, then he would give it life. Under the great palm trees of Ife, he sat and gathered the finest clay from the earth, kneading it between his fingers, shaping it with divine precision. One by one, he molded the first human figures, arms, legs, faces, all formed with careful craftsmanship. He sculpted them in different shapes and sizes, some tall, some short, some with wide noses, others with slender faces. But just as he was about to complete his work, something stirred within him, a thirst. He had long since sworn off palm wine after his previous misstep, but the heat of the sun and the exhaustion of his labor made him weak. A pot of the fermented drink sat nearby, untouched for days. Surely just one sip would not harm him. One sip turned into two. Two turned into many. Soon, Obatala's hands, once steady and precise, grew clumsy. His fingers trembled as he sculpted, and in his drunken haze, some of the figures took unusual shapes. Some had hunched backs, others had twisted limbs. But he did not notice. When he finally sobered up, he looked upon his creations and saw the imperfections. He felt ashamed. How could the great sculptor of the gods make such errors? With a heavy heart, he brought his figures to Olodumare. The supreme god looked upon them, his gaze calm, yet powerful. Obatala, you have done well, but your work is not yet complete. I shall breathe life into them, for it is I who gives the breath of existence. But know this, those you shaped in error shall still live among those who are whole, for they too are my children. And so, Olodumare breathed Imi, the divine breath, into the figures, and they stirred to life. The first humans opened their eyes and took their first steps upon the land of If. Some walked tall and strong, while others carried the marks of Obatala's intoxication. Realizing his mistake, Obatala swore an oath. From this day on, I shall never drink palm wine again, and I shall be the protector of those born different, for they are my creation. Thus, the Yoruba people say that those born with disabilities are under the special care of Obatala, the god who shaped them. As the first humans spread across the land, Oduduwa took them under his rule, teaching them how to build homes, farm the land, and form the first great kingdom. The earth was now filled with life, and the gods watched as their creation flourished. But the world was still incomplete, for without balance, chaos would soon follow. The world of men had begun. The land stretched wide, rivers flowed, and the first humans walked beneath the gaze of the gods. Oduduwa ruled as king, guiding the people in the ways of governance, while Obatala, having learned from his mistakes, continued to sculpt new beings with careful hands. Yet, something was missing. Though the earth had form and life, it lacked order. The sun rose and set, but there was no certainty of the future. People lived, but they did not yet know their destinies. The gods watched as humans wandered without purpose, uncertain of what their lives would bring. Olodumare, ever wise, knew that the world could not remain this way. And so, he summoned Orunmila, the god of wisdom and divination, and entrusted him with a sacred duty. Orunmila, you shall bring knowledge of destiny to mankind. You will teach them to seek wisdom, to understand the paths laid before them, and to respect the forces that shape their lives. Orunmila descended to the world and gifted humanity with Ifa, the sacred system of divination. He taught them that their lives were guided by fate, yet shaped by their own choices. Through divination, humans could glimpse their destinies, learn of dangers to come, and seek balance in their lives. But there was still one more force that needed to be set in place: the balance between good and evil, light and darkness. And so, from the shadows came Eshu, the trickster god, the messenger between the divine and the mortal. Eshu was neither fully good nor fully evil. He was the force of chaos, the one who ensured that balance remained. He carried the words of the gods to men and tested their wisdom by placing choices before them. Humans must learn, Eshu declared, that every action has a consequence. Their destinies are written, but the paths they take will be their own. With Orunmila's wisdom, Eshu's lessons, Oduduwa's rule, and Obatala's creation, the world was finally complete. The Yoruba gods had shaped a realm where life flourished, where humans had purpose, and where the divine still touched the mortal world. And so, the land of If became known as the cradle of civilization, the sacred birthplace of the Yoruba people. Even today, the echoes of this myth remain. Ifa divination continues to guide seekers of wisdom. Obatala's gentle hand is seen in the care for those born different. And the spirit of Eshu reminds all that life is a path filled with choices. The gods had created the world, but humanity's journey had only just begun. This creation story is not just a tale. It is the foundation of Yoruba culture. It explains the origins of diversity, why some are born with differences, and why all are deserving of respect. It teaches that even gods make mistakes, but what matters is how balance is restored. The myth also establishes Ile Ife as the spiritual and political heart of the Yoruba people, the place from which kings derive their divine authority. Even today, Yoruba kings, called Unis, trace their lineage back to Oduduwa, believing that his legacy flows through their blood. Which other African mythologies would you like to hear next? Drop your suggestions in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible African stories.